Habari Gani, everyone. Today is Ujima, which is collective work and responsibility. And coincidentally, it's the day that we light the green candle. I thought that was such a beautiful coincidence for a environmental justice organization such as Black Millennials for Flint. And so I'm going to have our president do a little welcome. I'm going to do a little bit of troubleshooting really quick, and then we're going to get started with our program. I'm going to drop the link to the programs that you all can follow along. We do have some more people coming, including some more presenters. I'm troubleshooting at least two people right now, so we'll get them in. But for now, I will pass it over to Dr. Latricia D. Adams.
All right, good evening. Well, it's afternoon here. I'm actually physically in Memphis, but good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Thank you all so much for joining. I know some people may have been ending a work day today, and some folks who are at least in the education sector may be on break. So thank you so much for joining. Just to give you kind of an overview of who we are, specifically to our guests. So this convening is sponsored by what's called the Black Millennials for Flint Alumni Network. So about 3 years ago, we started kind of a leadership pipeline program, and it has definitely taken off with great leaders that you see on tonight, such as Vanessa, as well as Jasmine, who's also on. Essentially, what we aim to do is to bring more young Black and Brown people into this space surrounding environmental justice. This movement actually started with Black people even before the term was coined around environmental justice, as many of us who were forced and coerced to come into this country faced issues surrounding environmental racism. So we're really excited to see that so many people are interested in integrating aspects of our culture, being descendants from Africa, as well as some friends who are also from Latinx descent, which also has connections back to the diaspora as well. Just excited that we are able to bring our culture to the forefront collectively, and what a very appropriate time with the principle of the day being Ujima, which is the heart of why Black Millennials for Flint got started. Quick history. So Black Millennials for Flint was actually founded in 2016 on the East Coast, so in the DC area. A lot of people ask us, or especially me, like, why do you have an organization with Flint in it? You're not from Flint. Why? And again, today is the perfect day to talk about that. So Flint rocked the nation as it relates to water quality, specifically around lead, but even other things that are environmental toxins that show up in disproportionately in Black and Brown communities. And so the reason why we have that namesake is because we want a majority Black city that made the whole world listen up to environmental justice issues like never before. We think that that's the least we can do, is to include that in our namesake. And so that everything that we do, we make sure that we pay respect to those environmental justice warriors, activists, people on the ground in Flint that literally set the world on fire with looking at environmental justice issues. So with that, I don't want to belabor you all with me speaking a lot. I definitely want this to be an organic environment, and I'm going to take Vanessa's lead on putting together such a wonderful program. But again, thanks y'all so much for joining.
Thank you all for coming. And thank you again, Latricia, for not only the remarks you just made, but for your leadership. It's like she mentioned, the Alumni Network is new, and myself and Amanda Rashad, who should be on a little bit later, have been the co-managers since the summer to really launch something that not only is a pipeline for former ambassadors, but for folks like you all who are partners, for people who are in the community who are interested in fighting environmental racism from a variety of different perspectives. As you all know, I'm in maternal health. I didn't even know that this was going to be something that overlapped with environmental racism, and all of us are in different, most of us are in something in public health. And so, and then education, my sister is an attorney. We have policymakers in this circle. And so it's just been a really interesting experience for me. As we get started, in my family, we've been celebrating Kwanzaa my entire life. Both of my parents celebrated it when they were in college. And coincidentally, when they eventually married and found each other and married in the 70s, they were, it was very important to bring this to their children. And so I am so grateful for Black Millennials for Flint for letting me bring this experience to you all. I also want to encourage, I know it's dinner time for all of you. So whoever is having dinner, I encourage you to order from a Black owned business, not only today, but all week and of course all year in 2021. And if there's a delicious Black business in your area, please feel free to drop their information in the chat so that other people can, patronize them and support them. And of course, yes, we'll be reimbursing your dinner tonight. So without further ado, something that my family always starts with is lift every voice and sing. It's very hard with the audio, on Zoom to do this. So I'm going to play a beautiful video of the song being sung by our sister Alicia Keys. And just take a moment to be in the moment. I'm going to show the video and then we're going to get started with the conversation.
We go to Arrowhead now for Lift Every Voice and Sing as it's played in the stadium.
At the dawn of the 20th century, America was a country full of promise and hope for many. Black Americans faced a different reality, a nation separate and unequal. Yet their hope persisted. Pained by inequality, but inspired by resilience, writer and civil rights activist James Weldon Johnson put pen to paper. His words would become a unifying call, a hope for a brighter tomorrow, a timeless exhortation to lift every voice and sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing a rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Let us march on till victory is won. Let us march on till victory.
There are forces that want to take us back to another place. We don't want to go back. We want to go forward.
Wonderful. So, yes, so we will get started with that. So once again, Habari Gani, today is Ujima. And then for all of you, who in the circle, is this your first time observing, celebrating, or having a Kwanzaa experience? I know it isn't for Shay or myself because when we were president and vice president of Black Student Union at University of Washington, we had it every year. But is there anyone else who this is? Shay's like, yeah, so we had to fight those white people to do it. Is there anyone here who this is your first Kwanzaa experience? Yes, no, maybe. It's okay if you guys want to be quiet. I just was curious because I'm going to do a little bit of an overview. And so, okay, yes. And so I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't, doing way too much. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my overview. Um, you guys have to bear with me. For some reason, every time I click off of Chrome, I lose my slides. Okay, I found them. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. So perfect. So I'm just going to give you guys a brief history of Kwanzaa. Um, for many of you who already know that Kwanzaa is celebrated every year from December 26th to January 1st. It is 7 days, and there are 7 principles that align with each day. Also, December 26th through January 1st is kind of around the same holiday season as some other winter holidays, such as Christmas and Hanukkah, but because Kwanzaa is not a holiday, it's not a religious holiday, it is a cultural celebration. It's not an either or. Many people of all faiths and of all racial backgrounds celebrate Kwanzaa, so it's a great addition to whatever you're already doing in the winter season. The word Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa, means first fruits, which represents African folks, the harvest. This is like harvest time in many places in West Africa. And so bringing that idea of fostering prosperity and harvesting the fruit of our labor at the end of the year is kind of that analogy. And the reason why Kwanzaa is actually spelled with an extra A, 7, is because when the founder, Dr. Maulana Karenga, who's actually originally from Maryland, but had his first celebration in South Central Los Angeles. I see you, Ian. Thanks for joining us. There was an extra kid there. There were 7 children, and he wanted each child to be able to participate. So he added an extra A so that little kid would have a little A to hold up. And that anecdote is also brings in the spirit that Kwanzaa is all about the children. It's all about the spirit of hope for the future, the spirit of a continuation of our heritage, and that it's not just something that us adults are supposed to bring into our lives and our work, but something that our children can be inspired with and proud of. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm fortunate that my parents instilled this in my sisters and my brother and I our whole lives. And so it's something I hope that you guys can bring to your families. So once again, Kwanzaa was founded in 1966. So before 1966, Dr. Maulana Karenga was a student at Cal State Long Beach, I'm pretty sure. And he was in an organization called US, which is very similar to BSU. He was actually there with Kamala Harris's dad, by the way. And while he was a student studying African languages and African American history, something similar to Shayante studies that she's going to talk to us about later, he became inspired with finding something to unify the country, but he didn't really know what it was going to be. It's the middle of the civil rights movement. Everybody got something going on. So in August of 1965 was, many of you know, especially us from the West Coast, we know that there was an incident with police brutality in Watts, California, which led to the Watts Rebellion, or what the white media would call the Watts Riots. And Dr. Karenga, his name was Ron Karenga at the time, he had not adopted the name Maulana yet. He decided that this was a perfect time to launch something that brought that brought the nation together. The Watts riots happened over a course of 4 or 5 days, destroyed tens of thousands of dollars worth of property that was primarily Black homes, Black schools, and Black businesses, all due to police aggravation and violence. And the country saw it as if something that Black people instigated, but it was actually the opposite. And the reason I bring that forward as a part of the history of Kwanzaa is because what we're seeing now, the 2020 Fed Up movement, Black Lives Matter, and all of the demonstrations across the country are us, being sick and tired of being sick and tired all these years later, fighting for some of the same things that our parents and grandparents and even older ancestors have been fighting for, but yet and still here we are in the streets doing the same thing that was happening over 60 years ago when Kwanzaa started. And so today's principle, collective work and responsibility, is a reflection of that, is a reflection of different organizations coming together, different types of activists coming together, different Americans with different stories all coming together to fight for justice. And even if for no other reason than to just converse about it. Of course, we want action, right? We want policy change, but it definitely started with a conversation, and with social distancing and the nature of COVID this year, it's been both a barrier to that, but also an acceleration of a unique style of activism, I would say, in my personal opinion. So before I don't want to go too far off my notes, Cal State Long Beach. Oh, yes. And yeah, so let me just really quickly go through the 7 principles. And then I'm also going to show you all my Kwanzaa table behind me so that you all can get an idea of how to have your own Kwanzaa table at your home for you and your families. Hey, welcome back. For you and your family so that you can, have a little bit of a starter kit. So once again, December 26th, the first day is Umoja, which is unity. December 27th, which was yesterday, is Kujichagulia, self-determination. And I was grateful. Yesterday, I led a Zoom Kwanzaa that was centered around reproductive justice. And we had a variety of poets from Ghana all the way to Oakland, as well as doulas and other birth workers from around the country. And we talked about menstrual equity, and we talked about maternal and infant survival and a variety of different things. But most importantly, we talked about self-determining your reproductive justice. It was great. I might send you guys a video. Today, day 3, collective work and responsibility. Tomorrow is Ujima, which is cooperative economics. Like I said, drop the whatever Black business you're going to order your dinner from, drop the link. Then the next day is Nia, purpose. Kumba, creativity, which is on New Year's Eve. And January 1st is Imani, faith, to ring in the new year. And I'm going to show you my Kwanzaa table and tell you about the symbols. I have to do this in kind of a weird way because I'm on my laptop, so I need you guys to just bear with me because I'm going to have to hold my laptop in one hand. It's not a tablet, so we can make it happen, y'all. No, because you can't see it from the backside. That's my sister. She's amazing. She's my tech support today. So I have a basic Kwanzaa table here behind me. So I'm going to kind of do it like this, where Kwanzaa has basic elements, but the beauty of it being an American celebration is you can turn it into whatever you want. And most importantly, you get to include what is valuable and exciting for your family. But I'm going to give you kind of like a 101 basics. So the base, as you may be able to see, is an African cloth. This is actually a Ankara skirt that I bought in the marketplace when I was working in Sierra Leone in 2018. Shout out to my nurses and my midwives and my epidemiologists, because I wish I could go back. Freetown is a beautiful city that was actually established and taken back from colonizers by former American slaves. If you guys don't know the story, I would encourage you to look after it. Liberia isn't the only place in Africa established by Black Americans. And then on top of it, we have, this is why y'all need to buy me an iPad, but I'm gonna hold my MacBook. Okay, so here we have the Macheka, which is the woven mat, and it represents our shared history coming together, our foundation and our roots and our strength in our African heritage. On top of it, of course, is our kinara, which is our candle holder. And it also has a bit of like a shared, the representation is a shared, bringing all 7 of the principles together based on the heritage of all 55 plus African countries, that we all come from different countries in Africa or even the Caribbean, but we all can bring it all together here with our candle holder. In the candle holder is the Mashuma Saba, which is the 7 candles. And as you can see from the colors, they are the same as our beautiful bandera, our Pan-African flag of liberation. So Black, the color of our skin, red, the blood of our struggle, green, the color of our land and our future. And when you're lighting the candles each day, you start with the black and then you alternate red, green, red, green. So that's why today is the green candle, because Umoja was on black, Kujichagulia was on red, and today we're on Ujima. And so it goes boom, boom, boom like that, alternating. I'm not gonna light them today because the candles fell over yesterday and it got a little dangerous. So then we also have our basket of Mazeo, which is fruits and harvest, fruits and crops. Like I mentioned the other day, or I mentioned a little earlier, you know, Kwanzaa means first fruits. And so it's kind of a representation of prosperity and the fruits of your labor. Got some yams and some avocados and stuff in there. We also have Zawadi, which are gifts. And so for us, I have pictures of family and loved ones. And then last but not least, tilt it down some more. Okay, my sister's like, I can't see. And then last but not least, when it comes to the basic elements, we have our Kukombe Cha Umoja, which is the unity cup. And later on, we will do a bit of a honor of our tribute to our ancestors. And when it's not COVID and when it's kind of a different time, you may fill this with water or your favorite beverage and share it amongst, you know, take a sip or lift it to the ancestors. And then at the end, pour it out to the ancestors. Some people pour it onto the ground or into the soil as a reminder that we stand on the legacy of our ancestors. My family, we like to pour it into a red towel, not just because it's easy cleanup, but because we want to remember the blood that has been shed. And as you guys probably are thinking, that's like pouring it out to the homies. Like that's literally where it comes from. Like everything we do here in America comes from some sort of like African tradition, which I just think is super dope. So I just want to thank you guys. And so that's that. And so I just want to move on to with a little bit more with the program. So next, because we have an intimate group today, if you all are comfortable, I would love to just do a quick round of introductions. I already introduced myself. Many of y'all already know me. I don't know if Latricia wants to do any additional introductions since she introduced herself already. But if she doesn't, then we can have someone else start and we'll just popcorn around the circle really quick. Let the circle be unbroken. Do not feel pressure to turn on your camera, but we'd still love to hear your beautiful voices. And whoever wants to start can get started.
I can start again.
I can start.
I'm
Vivian Vassal, Vanessa's older sister, and I'm a big fan of hers. And I guess we've been, as she said, celebrating Kwanzaa pretty much our whole lives, and it's just a pleasure to be able to bring it to our friends in our community. I'm in Seattle, Washington, which is where we grew up. And I'm a graduate of Seattle University, and I went to University of Colorado at Boulder for law school. So I'm here practicing law for a nonprofit healthcare organization. And I think that's about it. I'll turn it over to Shayante since she's a fellow Seattleite.
Yes, hi Vivian. Good afternoon / evening. I'm in Cincinnati right now, so it's just after 6 p.m. here. But yes, my name is Shayante Allen, just as you all have been saying, but everyone calls me Shay, so y'all are welcome to call me Shay too. And I'm currently, again, in Cincinnati. I'm a PhD candidate in the Department of Sociology at the University of Cincinnati, but I'm originally from Seattle. And so me and Vanessa met on move-in day into our dorms as incoming freshmen at the University of Washington. She literally ran up to my brother's car and knocked on the window because she said, "You're Black, I'm Black, we're moving into the same dorm, we need to know each other." And I kid you not, that is the literal way we met. And we've been really good friends ever since. So that was in
2005.
That was in 2005.
Right.
So it's been 15 years. But yeah, so I'm excited to be here. Again, went to the University of Washington for undergrad. moved to Nashville, Tennessee area, got my master's degree in sociology, graduate certificate in women and gender studies at Middle Tennessee State. And then I moved up to Cincinnati, Ohio to get my PhD. And hopefully I am dissertating right now. So hopefully in the next 6 months or so, it will be Dr. Shayante. So just keep me on your prayer list, y'all. I'm supposed to popcorn. I'll popcorn to Wayne.
Everyone, good evening. It's great to be here with you all. Thank you. This is actually, I've been celebrating Kwanzaa since I was probably 10 years ago with my family. Then we kind of stopped as years went on. But a brief bit about me. I am currently a postdoctoral fellow at the National Institutes of Health. I currently reside here in Bethesda, Maryland, and I'm excited to be a part of this with you all.
Doctor, the good doctor.
Oh,
Okay,
I have a one.
Yeah.
Jasmine.
Hello, I'm Jasmine. I am a Flint native, so thank you all very much. I'm an epidemiologist. I am a community member. I'm currently working in Flint, looking to, I don't know, push for justice as the water crisis continues. I studied neuroscience at Central Michigan University and then studied neuropsychiatric epidemiology at Harvard University, where I also concentrated in public health leadership and population mental health. And these people are getting on my nerves. So it's so nice to be here and not, dealing with all of the stuff. Yeah. Oh, I almost forgot to popcorn it. Let me see. Has Candace introduced herself? Okay. How about Lily?
Hello, my name is Lily A. Lindsay, and I'm a special educator in Arizona, and I'm a teacher on the Tana Afam Nation. I work for the Bureau of Indian Education, and happy to be here. Would celebrate Kwanzaa as a student at VCU and had an opportunity to meet people like James Baldwin and Ivan von Sertima and all the greats, and fell out of practice and excited to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll have Ian go next.
Can you hear me? I think you guys can hear me now, right? Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Good, I think so. Latrice, what's up? What up, though? Hi, my name is Ian McKay from New York. Vanessa's friend. I was just invited, and I just wanted to support. This is very interesting. I'm not as decorated as everyone on here, but so I'm from New York, St. John's University graduate. I don't know what else to say. Currently, I'm a relationship manager at AST, American Stock Transfer and Trust Company. I DJ as well, but I do a lot of community work with my fraternity and with the Urban League, particularly the Urban League of New York City and the Urban League YPs. So I'm just happy to be here. This is dope.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because another thing about the history of Black Millennials for Flint is we originally were not our own nonprofit civil rights organization. We were actually a committee out of Thursday Network, Urban League.
Thursday Network, yeah.
Originally, we were a service project to help approach some challenges that were happening in Flint. And then now we are our own entities. So
I know some people that worked on that. Yeah, I know some people that worked on that. So kudos. Latrice.
Hey, I just had to say, hey, Ian, this is a small world. I didn't even know that
Ain't
there
it
was a
small?
connection there.
Oh, y'all
Right. I was looking at the
know each
What?
name
Of
and the
course.
face, and I was just like, is that Ian? What's
Lord.
up, fellow YP? Yes.
What up, though?
Okay, I'm gonna go off on mute now.
Mariah, would you
I don't
like
want
to
to
go?
cause too much.
I can't wait to hear that story. Anyway, but because we're recording, Mariah, would you like to go next?
Oh, had to take myself off mute there. Greetings, everyone. It's so great to see all your smiling faces. Feeling so inspired. I just submitted some of my DRPH applications, so it's great to see other Black PhDs and just folks who are committed to educating ourselves, whether it's in the traditional sense or not. My name is Mariah. I was able to meet the amazing Vanessa while she was spending time in the Washington, D.C. area. Her, myself, and Wayne had created this Black coalition where we're just committed to pushing forth Black wellness and centering health disparity issues that affect our people. I was trained in anthropology and public health and international studies, and currently am working in the global development space as a project officer and financial compliance officer in the Caribbean and Africa. I'm really excited to share some art with you guys later on in the program. I'm really passionate about just connecting art and public health and healing our folks through creating outlets. So really excited to meet everyone. And lastly, wanted to shout out my aunt, Lily, as she was able to join on. I did not know that she was practicing in college. This is actually my first time trying to practice this year. My family has historically always been committed to just understanding our history. And so I'm excited to welcome this in as a new tradition. But she was the first poet I was exposed to, and really introduced me to Audre Lorde and all the great writers before I got into doing work myself. So just want to honor her in this space.
Thank you, Mariah. You froze up there for a minute, but we heard the majority of what you said, and we're so grateful that you're here. Cassandra, did you want to go next?
I can. I'm just going to warn you, the kids are right here. So you may hear me and them. I'm Cassandra. I am originally from Long Island, New York. So shout out to the other New Yorkers, Nassau County. I actually live in northern New Jersey now, and I got to meet Vanessa while we were training as doulas this year. So she invited me here to this space. I am also not as decorated, but I'm gonna pretend so. I'm a I am a virtual assistant right now, working from home and taking care of the kiddos during this COVID excitement. I've been a stay-at-home mom for almost 4 years. So I've got to focus, and I've actually become an advocate for my special needs daughter and other children in the area, going and visiting schools whenever I can, whenever I could. Um, like I said, a virtual assistant. I work for a mental health therapist. Um, that I guess that's it for now. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm about to finish my associate's degree in criminal justice, and I'm gonna go from there. I've got 2 businesses of my own. I hope you all can hear me. My phone's ringing. I'm sorry. I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can hear you.
All righty, I've got 2 businesses of my own. I'm a black doula here in Jersey, and I am specializing in bereavement and loss. Also been trained in postpartum and full spectrum in birth. So I'm here to enjoy Kwanzaa. My family never ever believed in Kwanzaa. Um, they also don't believe in Christmas. Mostly they are Jehovah's Witnesses, so they don't believe in too much of anything when it comes to holidays. But I got lucky enough to be raised in it was predominantly Black school district. So my principal had us celebrating Kwanzaa from kindergarten all the way until 6th grade. When I was in elementary school, in high school, we were not as lucky, but I have friends that have family members that were Black Panthers and all kind of militant folks. So we got to celebrate Kwanzaa with my friends and family. And I actually, this is the first year I'm gonna miss because I'm down in Kentucky visiting my grandparents. So I got to do my Kwanzaa here on Zoom with you guys.
And we are so glad that you and the children are here with us. Okay, so we have two more intros. Gabby Chapman, would you like to go, please, my dear?
Yes, I have a crazy dog in the background, so I'm sorry. I'm Gabby. I was invited by Mariah. We met while I think she was working on her master's at Albany. I'm not necessarily in the public health space, but well, I don't know. I'm applying to veterinary school right now, so I have a couple interviews coming up soon. And I'm really interested in looking at sort of the intersections between environmental health, human health, and animal health. I'm really also interested in the intersections of anti-Blackness and animal liberation. So if anyone wants to talk about that later, we can talk offline.
Yes, let's talk offline. That's so unique.
Yeah, there's lots. It's super deep. So yeah, we can talk more. And who was the one person that was left?
I think it's Candace P.
All right.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Hi, I was invited by Mariah. Like Gabby, I'm not really in the public health field. I took the corporate route prior to, after graduating undergrad, I went and obtained my law degree. And I practiced family law for a little bit, and now I work in compliance in the business sector. I just finished my MBA this past December. So that's, I guess, what I'm celebrating this holiday season. As far as Kwanzaa is concerned, I've never celebrated Kwanzaa before. So this will be my first experience. My family, they're immigrants from Trinidad, so I'm not really sure if this is something that, they've ever experienced before, but, as an American, growing up as an American, a Black American at that, I've always been interested, and I've never had the opportunity to celebrate. So I'm very excited. And I thank you guys for having me.
Of course. And I miss you. I can't wait to see you in person again.
I know. We got to link up, Vanessa.
I know. I'm in Seattle now. It's a whole thing.
Oh, you're in Seattle now.
I am. Anyway,
we'll talk later.
It's so good to see you. Yeah, we will. And then we have someone who just came on, and I know everyone pretty much had like my name when they logged in, so I apologize for that. Zoom. But there's one person who just joined us, which I'm assuming is someone who I invited since my name was on their invite. If you'd like to get off mute and introduce yourself, you're more than welcome. And then if you want to wait and do that a little bit later on, that's fine as well. So thank you all for your introductions. I think it's so interesting how everyone in some way is connected, whether it be through who we are or what we do. So without further ado, I would actually like Shayante to start. She's prepared some remarks that she would like to share on today's Kwanzaa celebration. So Shay, you have the floor.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it looked like their mic was off, and so I was like, oh, are they trying to talk? But no, I actually don't see the microphone next to their name in the other list, so I'll go ahead and get started then. So thanks, Vanessa, for the invite to participate in this event. It's really exciting to hear about this event. And again, I didn't grow up celebrating Kwanzaa, and I pretty much learned about it as we were hosting it for our university community. Again, I told you the story about how me and Vanessa met, and then obviously we have similar personality types. We're really active and engaged on campus. So we ended up serving on the executive board for our university's Black Student Union together. And as a result of that, we hosted the the Kwanzaa event at our Ethnic Cultural Center. And so since I've learned about it, it's one of the few things that we really get to call our own as Black people in America. And like Vanessa said earlier, it really complements any other holidays that you may be celebrating at the time. So for me, it was something that was really cool and something that I was just naturally interested in and have continued to engage with over the years. So Vanessa tapped me to contribute because, again, I'm a sociologist. My particular research interests are in racial inequality and resistance to racial inequality, and my particular research projects focus on Black millennials. So in many ways, I am, I guess, equipped or trained to provide just some insights, or as she says, a scholarly reflection on kind of our moment in time, this moment in time, and particularly a conversation about, today's principle about collective work. So I just put together a few thoughts that I had. So I'm just going to go through those, and then I'm happy to talk through them more, or we can, I don't know if there's a time at the end for us to kind of chat, but yeah, I'm just going to kind of talk through. So as we know, the definition for today's principle, Ujima, is collective work and responsibility. And, if you kind of look into and read up on Kwanzaa, each principle has the actual name or the translation, and then it has like a definition. And so again, today, the definition of today's principle is to build and maintain our community together and make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems, and to solve them together. And so I love this principle because in many ways it's connected to a question that Black people have asked, continue to ask, are still asking right now, which is simply, how can we win? How do we win? As Black people in America, how do we thrive, not just survive, right? And so again, as a sociologist, it's really sometimes disheartening to think about that, because if we think about the trajectory, of our experience in this country in that socio-historical context, we're just reminded of so many instances where it was not set up structurally for us to win. We know that, as Black descendants of American slavery, the history of our experience in this country starts with the transatlantic slave trade. And then we can think about, the Jim Crow laws that were put into place to limit us, politically and socially. We can think about redlining and the subprime mortgage crisis that has prevented us from getting houses and building wealth and equity, in our home loans. We can think about Hurricane Katrina and the way that it was put on blast to this entire country that our lives and our communities and our properties don't matter. We can think about the student loan crisis that's currently going on, that we haven't even officially truly called it that yet, but we're going to eventually going to have to get to a point where we talk about how certain schools and certain populations, like Black communities, were disadvantagedly and disproportionately affected by these student loans and by these for-profit institutions. Of course, we got to talk about the Flint water crisis, where once again, we were reminded that when we needed help structurally, or when we needed a bailout, it wasn't there. And then of course we have to talk about COVID-19, and thank you for reminding us about the Tuskegee experiments, and how when we talk about our engagement with medical institutions, and when it comes to when we need these, the help, when we need the structural acknowledgement of how our community has been neglected, it falls short. So again, it's difficult and hard when we think about it and we put these things into a trajectory. But again, in the midst of all of that, we have continued to create our own opportunities. We've been innovative, and we found ways to create community, foster community, and to support each other. And so again, I love today's principle because in many ways it shows that even in the midst of all of this, we're still able to create something beautiful. And so I think I like to look at the definition of Ujima to kind of break it down. As we continue to think about moving forward, how can we win? Like, while yes, it's great and beautiful, and we can reclaim these experiences and the ways we've responded to them as innovative and resistive, how can we make things different for our future generations so that our nieces and nephews and our kids, they don't have to have the same experience that we've had? So we think about Ujima and we break this definition down, and there are three questions that we kind of can ask and that we need to critically reflect upon as a community. So first, there's, what does it mean to build and, more importantly, maintain community? within the Black community. You know, and it's really interesting to think about this right now within this context of a social distance virtual COVID world, right? Because we're going to have to be a little bit more innovative than we might have been in the past. Again, my dissertation is particularly on Black Christian millennials, and I always have to talk about how we're living in a different social landscape. Back in the day, it was the church house, right? The food after church where we built and fostered community. But that process looks different today. So we need to think and reflect critically about what that means and what that looks like. How can we be intentional about making our brothers and sisters and other community siblings problems our own? What does that mean, and what does that look like? And I'm going to get to it in a little bit about why that is particularly difficult for us in this moment and being products of this country. And then finally, what does it mean, or how do we go about solving them together, right? And so again, I'm going to talk about some issues that arise. And so when we think about these questions, it's important for us to, again, think about and reflect on this idea of collective work and responsibility, because unfortunately, as products of the American imperialist country, we have unfortunately internalized some of these ideologies that only actively perpetuate a disconnection. So when we talk about this idea of being a collectivity and owning our collectiveness, we have to actively undo the internalization of these ideologies that disconnect us. So what are those? So of course we are familiar with the crabs in the barrel or crabs in the bucket mentality, which again is this idea that I'm going to get my own, even if I have to step on your head to do it, right? There's these diaspora wars that are going on. I don't know who's downloaded the new app Clubhouse yet, but I love it because it is giving us something to do when we're still kind of figuring out how to socially engage in this COVID world. But I could get on it right now, and I guarantee you there's 5 rooms about ADOS versus African immigrants versus Caribbean. And it's like, this is interesting that we're having these diaspora wars and these conversations about what does it mean to be Black. And it's disheartening because it doesn't seem to be fruitful conversations. And again, I'm not trying to blame individuals, because we know this is only reflective of this systemic kind of nature of this country that kind of perpetuates communities and cultures and hierarchizes them. I can't say that, but you know, basically ranks them and puts them in order. That's unfortunately how we've come to understand how things work. So we only know how to perpetuate that even within our own community. Elitism, and so this is evidence on Clubhouse again. Every day I can get on and there's a conversation about HBCUs versus PWIs, which one are better for the Black community? Is Jack and Jill a good organization for the community? Is it helpful, or is it perpetuating elitism? Black Greek letter organizations, are they elitist? Are they exclusionary? Are they perpetuating problematic ideologies within our community? So again, these are things that we have to think about and embrace. We don't need to run from these kind of conversations because again, it's going to be within this tension that we're able to birth this new knowledge that's going to be able to push us forward. But ultimately, I think, again, the crux of what I'm trying to get across is that Ujima actually requires us to undo these internalized ideologies that promote disconnection within our community. Individualism and meritocracy, the bootstraps model. Unfortunately, this like the concept of the Black middle class, which I guess in many ways most of us would fall into, right? So we perpetuate this classism, which only, echoes this kind of the issues that we had in the past of the report, it's escaping me, Moynihan report, right? This idea that there's something inherently flawed with Black culture and Black family structures. And again, these individualistic excuses, which only, basically excuse the government from undoing what they have done structurally to produce these realities within the Black community. And then finally, we have to talk about internalized anti-Blackness, which is something that we don't like to talk about. Lately, a bit prominent example is colorism, right? And how we as individuals may be complicit in perpetuating this in whatever ways. So there's a lot of work to be done simply right there, and just thinking about if we want to talk about collective work and responsibility, we first have to critically and uncomfortably engage with the things that are disconnecting us. And so again, these are just some examples that immediately came to mind, and I'm sure there's more. So thinking about how to move past kind of these disconnects so that we can effectively build and support one another, I always say, and again, maybe this is the academic in me, the sociologist in me, that we have to be open to asking questions and seeking answers, because that's another thing that we see a lot of. There's a lot of people ready to ask questions. There's a lot of people ready to critique and reduce and all of these things, but not enough people willing to do the next step, the work to answer those questions, or to again generate that new knowledge that's going to be beneficial for pushing us forward. We have to be intentional about having conversations and making sure that their voices from all facets of our community are represented at those tables. Again, this kind of echoes that issue of elitism, of who gets to decide who gets to be the leader of our movements, who gets to decide who gets to push what policies forward. So we have to think about that as well, about making sure and being intentional that all people in our community is represented when we're having these discussions about resistance and moving forward. We have to recognize that racism on all levels, from the individual all the way up to the institutional level, it's dynamic, and therefore it changes. So this obviously has an implication on how we do this resistance. In some ways it stays the same, and in other ways it's completely new manifestations of how racism exists. And so in order for us to truly resist it, we have to be open to bringing new voices up to the stage, right? We have to be open to switching up the ways that we respond to it, because in some cases old strategies may work, but in other cases they won't. So we have to be dynamic in our resistive practices as well. And I think, again, COVID-19 gave us some 2020 vision on this, right? When Black Lives Matter first came out and everybody was using the hashtag, there was all this criticism, at least in the scholarly committee. They were referring to any kind of activism done online as slacktivism, as lazy, as kind of meaningless, as disengaged, really. But under COVID-19, this is the majority of our activism has to be online and in digital spaces, right? So it's really interesting, again, how the social climate can kind of dictate the ways that we understand our experiences and how to change them. And then finally, we need to realize that radical change requires a radical imagination. And I've given talks on the radical imagination before, and I love this concept because imagination is usually affiliated with like childhood. It's this idea of almost like it's unrealistic, but scholars that study radical imagination say we actually need to go remove all the stuff we've learned, go back to that childlike place where you open yourselves up to be able to think about, imagining new futures, imagining new possibilities, imagining new worlds. And so that's what we have to do. And that's why embracing a radical imagination is so important. So this wouldn't be a scholarly reflection if I didn't provide some readings for you all. So if we want to be radical change makers, if we want to continue to be radical change makers, because everybody on this call is already a radical change maker, we got to be intentional about revisiting old texts of particularly notable kind of activists, scholars, public intellectuals. So immediately what came to mind for me was like Ida B. Wells, who I love, and W.E.B. Du Bois, who we claim as one of our classical theorists in sociology. Earlier, Lily reminded me of James Baldwin. There's almost nothing you can't read of his that wouldn't be directly applicable to today. There's a couple of texts in particular. Robin D.G. Kelly has a text called The Black Radical Imagination. So if you're not familiar with that and you're curious about reading up more on what it means to develop a radical imagination, you may want to look into his book. Again, Robin D.G. Kelly. It's called Freedom Dreams, The Black Radical Imagination. And then also Charlene Carruthers, who's most notably was affiliated with BYP 100 and in Chicago. She recently published a book called Unapologetic, a Black, Queer, and Feminist Mandate for Radical Movements, which also has a chapter on like unapologetic Blackness and radical imagining. And so those are just some scholars and texts that you may want to look into, again, as we try to develop a radical imagination so that we can create new futures for Black lives. So thank you.
Thank you, Shayante E. Allen from Washington State, University of Cincinnati, my beloved and dear former dorm mate from back in the day. And clearly it is shown in the circle why you are going to be an amazing doctor in a few months. I just want to thank you, give you some snaps from around the circle. Those remarks were amazing. So we would like to continue on in the same spirit with Mariah, who's going to do some poetry for us.
Listen, I have to follow up with another reactionary clap because that was just beautiful. I was trying to take notes on my note pen pad here, and I love just that phrase of just radical imagination. And so often we forget how intertwined that creativity is with being able to develop an alternative and really to dismantle the system that exists and create a new system. And so just thank you so much. I can't wait to see the recording so I can follow up on just a few of the manifestos you shared that I'm definitely going to be reading up on. I wanted to thank you so much. Seriously. I really appreciated it, and it just breathed life into me. It's been a hard year for us all. And really, I've been turning to the arts a lot to just find that expression. And it's almost felt like a Black renaissance of sorts when I see folks like Jasmine Mans, an amazing Black queer poet, Rudy Francisco, and different folks just coming out with new projects to talk about the Black pain that we're experiencing in a critical way. And so I love to just open up the space with a haiku. This is actually from my first book. I'm working on a second, and I'll have to drop it in the chat for Vanessa, but it's called Of Mics and Pens and Gods and Other College Courses. It's about my journey just through understanding my Black femininity growing up in the South, and really in this society that's steeped in white supremacy and misogynoir and all these other things, right? So this is called Afros. And it's a haiku, so it'll be quick, guys. Our hair defies law. Gravity can't keep it down. Jim Crow can't either. And that was just a quick haiku. And I want to share one more haiku before I get into some long poems. This is actually called Bloodletting. Red blood turned dry, now brown boy blood. 'Cause when we die darker. And again, that one is called Bloodletting. And just wanted to share, because I know we're also just sharing resources. If you are a fan of spoken word poetry, I'm really just trying to make a lot more of this work multidisciplinary, bringing folks over from the science space into the art space and vice versa, because this is another modality where we can really translate our messages about these disparities. Please check out things like Wand Poetry, which tries to center voices of color and marginalized experience on YouTube. They also have a website, and they often have writing workshops and things that they offer at a sliding fee scale. Also Button Poetry and Women of the World Poetry Slam post a lot of videos of folks just talking about issues going on in their community. And it's another way for them to get out messages and ways we can make changes. So the next poem I wanted to share with you guys, I really just wanted to highlight the fact that I actually curated this piece when I was performing at the National Academy of Sciences for the Board of Children, Youth, and Family. And I was asked to perform and really be on a panel where I was the only woman. I was the only Black woman. I was the only queer person. And as always, we know, because I know we have a lot of educated folks representing, that was a heavy thing to bear. And as I was coming to sit on this panel and curating this piece, I thought about the tables and the spaces that folks are not invited to enter into, and how there is enough space. Folks know exactly how much room is around the table, but they're intentionally and structurally keeping us out. And so this is that piece. It was once famously said, if you're not on the table, then you're probably on the menu. And today, there are a lot of our children and families that are being eaten alive, while folks in power complicitly sit by, because the pie, America, is not cut with an even divide. Not when equity is denied. Not when we have some that are starving and others that are oversatisfied. Not when we have kids in cages while others are roaming free, carrying on with way more than what they need. It's a calamity. When bellies are growling, hungry for some sort of racial justice and cultural competency, and a healthcare system that serves only the ones they care to see. We know something is missing. When we are setting records for spending, the most of any developed nation, and have little results to show, meaning it's less about money and more about where that money goes. We have people with darker pigments predisposed to die sooner with less on their plate, if they get a plate at all. We have psychosocial trauma fueling future self-hate, lacking mental health services set in place to prevent future funeral dates. We do have gun-sanctioned violence on the menu with a side of moral turpitude, but we don't have nearly enough settings at this table, and we have to make room. We're settling for accepting the status quo. And if you're sitting by your cutlery with no comment, you're a part of the problem and not working to solve it. Not when some of our genders and same-loving people refuse to be recognized. Suicide is up and stability is down. I'm tired of passing around seconds of what is already not serving us now, expecting a different result. Time to ask for what we need and dismantle white tablecloths built upon greed. My plate initiatives remain a dream for those who live in a state of disparity. Among food deserts, drugs, and lead-filled water to drink, I'm looking around and I think all deserve the dignity of fine dining and safety. Maybe we should reflect on all the factors that are compounded, all the things making up the ingredients of what we're consuming now, like racism, sexism, homophobia, poverty, and social neglect. There is a problem when zip codes determine how much life you should expect. When results lead to stigma and women's rights are an enigma and education is denied based on income. A third grader's test score determines how many prisons will fill up. How can we stomach to stare at ourselves surrounding a table when we know there is not enough? It's confined and it's beyond one policy or practice or protocol or law or research project or sign in a movement. It's bigger than all of that. All of us are interconnected, once referred to as a melting pot, now left to stew in these statistics that it's hard to swallow. But some of us are disenfranchised deliberately. So let's scrutinize this so-called liberty and try to change these existing configurings. There's enough resources. We just need to reinvent how we deliver them. Remember to join forces to make every family a stakeholder around this table in every state. The stakes are high, too high to miss our mark this time. It's up to us to give every community more opportunity. And we have been served up a lot, but we can take steps to make sure we pass to the right and to the left. So there's always space and inclusion to begin true restitution. Let's lead by intention so we can fortify our youth and family strength again by pipelining in positivity and not prisons and positions, curating safe spaces where corner stores once were, breaking down barriers with sustainable and not just batches of what we tried before, and making sure that all of us, not just some of us or none of us, have a seat at this table. Better yet, let's dismantle the table so we have room for everyone. Thank you. I feel you all's energy and snaps. And I just want to close it out with just one more piece. If y'all will wait before bringing the hook out on me, for those that know about the Apollo. So this last piece, I know we gained a lot of ancestors this year. And we have those watching over us. From what I've read on Kwanzaa and from just experiencing you all talking today, a lot of the holiday is also just about honoring the shoulders we stand on, and the folks that were there before us that didn't have the privilege of really reflecting on all that has happened to our people. And one huge ancestor that we gained this year was Chadwick Boseman, as far as from a pop culture perspective. And I actually wrote this piece even before the Black Panther hysteria. It's so interesting to me when I reflect back on these pieces, because it's unfortunate, but it's, you guys know, but these songs, like these pieces of art, like the things that Marvin Gaye created, What's Going On, all of this is still so pertinent. And it's like it was written yesterday, because we still need to address these issues within our community. But seeing everyone here today gives me hope. And this piece is really just more about the hope that I have for us and the superheroes that I see all on the call today. So this piece is called Nooses Turn Capes. It's a bird. No, it's a plane. No, it's a Black man, and he's not falling or hanging, and he's closer to the sky, and he didn't have to die first. What if in some alternate universe, Black men were seen as superheroes, whirlwinds of tights and bronze and brains, and saviors of damsels in distress when they're not working their Clark Kent day jobs at a desk? And if Black men were superheroes, every bang, boom, pow wouldn't be followed with another dead brother on the ground, but instead be a comic book sans colorful page full action fighting scene. And if Black men were superheroes, then they could finally work in collaboration with the police, of course behind closed doors so the general public couldn't see. And if my Black male superheroes could be seen as less violent and more vigilante, then maybe more of my men of steel could bend the steel bars, decreasing the egregious people of color we have behind bars. Maybe if Black men were seen as superheroes, they would be bulletproof, they would be immortal, they would be guaranteed a tomorrow. And I mean, sure, there'd still be kryptonite, but if Black men were superheroes, they wouldn't have to be Crips tonight. They would be seen as less disposable. And maybe then we could get some positive representation in the media. And if Black men were superheroes, could they develop gills and breathe and never die on camera at the scene? And Eric Garner would still be alive. And if Black men were superheroes, could they tell stereotypes it's clobbering time? Could they speak every language so Diablo never dies? If Black men were superheroes, could they fall in love and live to get married to their one true soulmate and unwrite Sean Bell's story? And if Black men were superheroes, could they live to raise their sons, teach them about dismantling this system that didn't want them to grow up to be one? Unlike Alton Sterling, and if Black men were superheroes, would they use their Wolverine razor sharp claws to pluck out their afro? Would people marvel at their melanin? Would Black superheroes still shapeshift into something more docile, easier for their whitewashed eyes? If Black men were superheroes and we could be fast as Flash, would they always be in the right place at the right time? And if Black men were superheroes and could control the mind like Professor X, Malcolm that is, could they use telekinesis to mobilize all the people around their Black women? If Black men were superheroes, would you let your white sons dress up like them before they'd go down to sleep? Could we finally live long enough to grasp on and attain that dream? And if Black men were superheroes and could travel through time, could they go back and save thousands of Black lives, precious Black lives? Or would nothing change at all? And if Black men were superheroes, would you finally say their names? Or would the Batmobile just get pulled over more times? Would you tell Black superheroes to pull up their tights? Would they still not be good enough for Mary Jane? Would they still not stick up for the Black women in their clan? If Black men were superheroes and you could send up a signal and knew they were coming, would you still cross over to the other side of the street when you saw the hooded man swoop down onto his feet? And if Black men were superheroes, would there be a hashtag called hashtag superhero lives matter, then another hashtag to created to combat that said all lives matter too? I mean, sure, the superheroes are the ones out there risking their lives, but it's all for good measure, right? And if Black men were superheroes and it made the news, would you even believe the byline? Because Black people wouldn't have been painted as the victim or the villain this time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Mariah, for sharing your gift with us. We are so grateful for that. Please drop the link so that we can purchase your book, and also drop the link. Mariah also started a nonprofit or an organization around her poetry, which is amazing. We are so grateful for your gift. Next and finally, we will have Jasmine say a few words. Jasmine, hailing from Flint, Michigan. You are up next, my dear. And don't forget to drop the link.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I was literally just eating, so long day. But I just had a poem that I wrote for this event, which I just love y'all. So thank you for all the work that you do for us, to help us, to support us, and to just love us. So this poem is called Ujima. We are our brothers and sisters' keepers. Oh, sister, dear sister, what have we done to deserve this? Nothing but be our Black selves. That is enough for them to throw a fit. Oh, brother, dear brother, why do they want to see you dead? I can't even answer that for you. I am literally bleeding from my head. Oh, auntie, dear auntie, why do they poison our tap? Well, baby, they are trying their hardest to take us off the map. Oh, cousin, dear cousin, what on earth is going on with you? Well, fam, I'm constantly fighting demons. I'm just about through. Oh, neighbor, why is the air outside so thick? Well, honey, the real question is why aren't they not fixing it quick? Oh, teacher, why do we have to use these raggedy books? That is not our history anyway. For that, we must look. Oh, Reverend, I'm lost. Should we pray, shout, or yelp? Our Father gave us tools. Look to the hills from which cometh our help. Now, teacher, what do the Reverend's heels have to give? Now, child, with one another in the hills, that's where we find our will to live. Oh, neighbor, dear neighbor, if we're lost, how do we possibly find our way home? I'll send for you with a map, a hot meal, and you will hear us from a distance, just singing our freedom song. Oh, cousin, if you're ever feeling that down, please, anytime, just call. I know that you're there and I'm grateful. I just forget my resources when I'm up against a wall. Oh, auntie, dear auntie, will they ever make it right? Well, yes, It won't be easy, but we must resist and build with all of our might. Oh, brother, dear brother, to get us free, what will we need to do? Build up our communities, schools, and businesses that we can stay loyal to. Oh, sister, dear sister, thank you for standing here with me. Sister, your problems are my problems, so it is my responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. We appreciate your words, your poetry, and of course, your work with the research that you have done, are doing, and the fact that you are around that table, making sure they don't just justify continuing to kill us, because we need folks like you where you are. So next, as we wrap up our program this evening, similar to one of Mariah's poems, we're going to spend the last few moments calling on our ancestors. And my family has a bit of a tradition around this that we want to share with you today. Cassandra, did you want me to lead the ancestor circle? I just wanted to call on you, your spirit, to give me permission to do this, or did you want to lead it?
No, you can go ahead and do it, sis.
Okay, thanks, sis. So in my family, what we do is when we are, like I said earlier, when we're not in the social distancing space and we can come together in an unbroken circle, we'll pass the cup and we'll lift the cup up, say a name of an ancestor, and say Ashe. And Ashe is a call of togetherness. It's like, say that then, I'm with you. It's like a snap, like a clap. And so we'll say Ashe, 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 Asheo. And so what we're going to do really briefly, if you are comfortable, is you can come off mute and say the name of an ancestor, and we will say Ashe. If you have a beverage near you, some water or your favorite beverage, I know I want to be sensitive to the fact that some of y'all are in Flint, so I'm not going to be like, y'all got some water. But if you have something that you want to raise to your ancestors and to our ancestors, we'll say their name and we'll say Ashe. So we'll take a moment to just center our spirits. And after a few seconds, I'll go first. So everyone, let's start on mute. And then when you want to say your ancestor's name, you can come off mute and we'll say Ashe. So let's take a moment to center our spirits around those who passed and who we want to celebrate today.
Betty Curry.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Mia King. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ida B. Wells.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Irma Hall.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Mariella House.
Ashe.
Clifton Earl Allen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Natalie Lindsay.
Ashe.
Irene Brown.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Lloyd McKay.
Ashe.
Constance Marsh.
Ashe.
Todd Eugene Leonard.
Ashe.
Marilyn Allen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
George
Lorenzo
McKay.
Barber.
Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe.
Clyde Wilkinson.
Ashe.
Ashe.
So we'd like to call all of our ancestors into the room. We are grateful for the foundation they have laid for us The lives that we are living today are because of the lives that they have lived before us. And the way that we bring their spirits into this room together as a circle, together as a community, and moving forward as we continue to work collectively and be responsible for each other, as we continue in the rest of the principles of Kwanzaa, and of course into 2021, as we are all very excited. I'm going to say Harambe 7 times, and at the end, for those of you who can, you can pour it out for some of our ancestors. Harambe, 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 Harambe. Thank you all so much for joining the Black Millennials for Flint Alumni Network's first annual Green Candle Kwanzaa celebration. I'm so grateful for everyone here. I was so honored to be able to honor all of your ancestors. And please, please, please drop your contact information if you would like to continue the conversation amongst this circle. For those of you who had an invitation that maybe was forwarded to you from me or Mariah or another one of the homies, please either DM me your email, or I'll put my email down so that you can send me your contact information, because we would like to reimburse everybody for dinner today. For those of you who haven't eaten yet, like we're on the West Coast, it's only 4 o'clock. We will be eating Ethiopian food. So please have something that is rooted in our spirit. If you can, rooted in our shared heritage. Support a Black business if you can. If not, just eat what makes you happy. Eat what makes you happy. And once again, I just want to thank you all. I'm going to play a song that is very important to my family. It is a Kenyan song that is a farewell song, but it's not saying goodbye. It is saying, we will see you again, my friend. It is called Kwaheri. So I'm gonna play that real quick for you all. And I just want to thank you so much for being here today. Okay, I'm gonna try it one more time. Let me know if you can hear it, y'all.
Vanessa.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Vanessa, Jasmine wants to just make a quick announcement.
Yes.
About some support needed in Flint. Jasmine, you still on? Or you need me to? Does she need me to say it? Oops, she may want me. Oh, you still on? Okay.
Yes. Also, I couldn't hear the music. I don't know if.
I'm sorry you couldn't hear it. The slideshow, it has all the links, including Lift Every Voice and Sing. I'll drop it in the chat so that everybody can have the slideshow, and also has the lyrics and the translation. So I'll drop that again right now. Go ahead, Jazz.
Okay. So I don't know if y'all have heard. Again, thank you for being a part of this group, this family. Of course, this all came about because of the Flint water crisis, and now we're, I don't want to say on the other end of it because it'll never be over, but we're getting to the point where the state of Michigan is trying to settle the Flint water crisis. They just had the hearing last Monday, and they're trying to settle for $641 million to let off all of the defendants, aside from basically the EPA, who has clearly said they are not doing anything in response to the water crisis further. This looks like, of course, not enough if everyone who was involved in the water crisis were to sign up. Of course, not everyone will, but if they were, they would get about $6,000 a piece for life if it was split evenly. Additionally, for the kids under 6, so it's not actually split evenly, but for the kids under 6, they would get the most. Another huge issue that we have with it is that basically the distribution is very flawed. Kids who can prove through medical stuff that they were harmed by the Flint water crisis, they will get 10 times more in the settlement than kids who cannot prove through medical records that they were harmed by the Flint water crisis. So what we would hope that anyone can do from this call is help us get in touch with media. Our local media are sharing the same narrative that some of our elected officials are sharing, which is that Flint is okay with this settlement, when really they threatened to make us pay ourselves in the lawsuits if we didn't join. So it's really bad. But we're hoping that you can sign the petition that Tracy actually helped us create. Thank you so much. To email this judge. She's going to make her decision in early January about whether or not this is fair. Please sign the petition, which automatically allows you to email the judge and let her know this is not fair in the distribution, in the amount total. And they need to add healthcare, college, and replacing the pipes inside and outside of the homes to this deal, among other demands. But just please support us. We will be having a conversation actually right after this. Myself, the former mayor, the former health advisor, a community activist, and anyone else who wants to join the conversation will be able to join us in the comments on Facebook and on Zoom. I can make sure the information is in the chat to log in if you want to. We'll be starting at 7:45. And I can also, I also saw that the petition was in the chat, bit.ly/Flint says no. Thank you so much for making our problems your problems, and for helping us hopefully see some type of justice soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. We will sign the petition. I dropped a link again. That's where our collective work comes, because we cannot allow multi-generational poisoning to be bought at any price. Anyone who's alive, any child that is still in their mommy's belly, any child that is in their parents' imagination, $6,000 cannot buy their future. And so we look forward to this conversation, and definitely let you go prepare, since I know that's in just a few minutes. And then we'll have somebody drop the link on how to, I don't know if Latricia has it, on how to log in for those of you who have a little time in the rest of your schedule. So thank you so much again. And that will perfectly conclude this evening. Thanks again, Jasmine. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Be safe.
Remain healthy. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Good night.